Hello Mole fans, this is Matt, back with another edition of the Mole Tracker. The mole and the winner have been revealed, so today we'll take a look back and see what we thought of the finale in the Netflix series, and talk about what lies ahead for us Mole fans now that the show is over. Spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the last two episodes, do that now. I'll give you 5 seconds to click off this video, sprint through a minefield, unlock a money canister, and toss it to the mole. So with that out of the way, let's get right into it. So it turns out the mole was in fact Kazi, who's been at the top of our suspect list since episode 5. In fairness, she wasn't even on my radar until the bank heist in episode 4, and she didn't rise to the top of my list until after I had a chance to re-watch the first batch of episodes. So how did she do as mole? Let's grade her performance. The mole has two main jobs: keep money out of the pot and avoid suspicion. Ideally, they would avoid suspicion of both the other players in the game as well as the viewers, but that's easier said than done. For keeping money out of the pot, I'll give Kazi a B+. As we discussed in the last video during our Follow the Money segment, Kazi was pretty effective at costing the group money throughout the season, particularly in the bank mission and by taking the exemption in the chain mission. At one point, Pranav tells us that the mole is winning the game, and he was right. But as the season wore on, the rest of the group did a better job at earning money in the missions despite Kazi's sabotage attempts. For avoiding suspicion of her fellow players, I'll give her a solid A-. It's actually pretty rare to get down to the final 3 without both remaining players having figured it out by then. So you have to give credit where credit is due. Although I wish the show would have highlighted the fact that most of the players were way off base in their suspicions all season a little more. A missed opportunity there to prop up the mole's performance. As far as avoiding suspicion of the viewers, Kazi was not as good there, although that was not all her fault. In addition to being the top suspect on this channel, she was also the top choice in the fan vote on the Netflix webpage and in several articles and podcasts that I've seen. I don't think the producers and editors did her any favors in this regard, and the internet sleuths were able to piece together the clues pretty definitively. But part of the challenge for the mole is looking believable in the confessionals, and it felt to me like some of her dialogue was forced once she was on my radar. Nevertheless, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and only drop her grade to a C in this category. Overall, I'll give Kazi a B. Being the mole is really difficult thing to pull off. But Kazi gave it a solid go and somehow fooled most of her fellow competitors all season, which is no small feat, and honestly, usually the hardest thing for the mole to do. Is my grade too high or too low? Let me know in the comments below. Now, let's talk about the winner, Will, who deserved the win based on his facial reactions alone. Casting really hit a home run with this guy. Funny, engaging, athletic, attractive, and totally vested in the game. Sometimes the winner of the mole kind of backs their way into the victory, but not in this case. Will definitely earned it and was certainly a deserving winner. I was really happy for him and was glad to see him take home the pot. Who were you rooting for? Let me know in the comments. Speaking of the prize pot, the final tally came in at $101,500. I was happy to see it climb into the 6 figures range, but I think Alex oversold the sum quite a bit. To put it into perspective, the winners of seasons 1 and 2 took home over $500,000 each, and that was 20 years ago. Adjusted for inflation, Will won only about 10% of what his contemporaries took home. On the flip side, in the most recent seasons of the Dutch version, Wie is de Mol, the prize pot was less than 10,000 euros. So I think the trend since the US Mole went off the air in 2008 is that the show has evolved to being less about life-changing money and more about the thrill of winning the game and, of course, the exposure it gets you in a social media world. As far as the finale goes, if we're being honest, it was a bit of a dud, especially the abbreviated reunion portion. I was actually expecting episode 10 to be an extended episode with all sorts of behind-the-scenes bonus footage, but instead they crammed everything into 35 minutes, and it definitely felt like it was lacking. Usually the viewers find out something they didn't know during the finale, and you have one of those aha moments, but there was none of that here. Specifically, I wish we would have heard more from the eliminated players. Wouldn't it have been interesting for them to talk to Greg about how he was the only one to catch on to Kazi early? get a further explanation regarding why he switched his vote, and get his reaction to the fact that he could have been the winner if he hadn't changed his mind. Or maybe if they had talked to Dom about how he's so close to guessing the right city and getting back in the game, and asking him who he would have been gunning for if given a second chance. These guys were stars of the early episodes, so why not give them more screen time here? Or at the very least, give Samara a chance to finally introduce herself to the viewers. Oh well. Another disappointing thing for me was no mention of clues in the finale. There was great discussion regarding all sorts of potential clues in the comments section of my previous video, and I would have liked to see the show either confirm or debunk those theories. My sense is that the clues might have become too obvious within the internet community, and therefore they didn't want to highlight them on the show. But let's leave this topic on a positive note. I will say that the visuals of the final challenge were pretty cool, with all three players looking sharp in their suits, and the final shot of them celebrating and running off into the sunset with flames shooting off all around them was pretty epic. Well done there. Now that the season is over, what's next, Mole fans? Well, we do have some options to get our mole fix until Netflix decides to produce a second season, which I really hope they will. Let's start with season 1 of the original Anderson Cooper version from 2001. It is available on DVD, and that's probably the best old season to start with if you are a new mole fan that wants to see more. Season 1 was also streaming on Netflix last year, but it was removed when seasons 3 and 4 were added, so perhaps it will come back eventually. Speaking of seasons 3 and 4, those were the celebrity versions hosted by Ahmad Rashad. I will warn you that those seasons feel a little different than the others because the contestants were all D-list celebrities that were mostly just goofing around and making crude jokes. But it has its good moments, and it's a quick watch with only 6 or 7 episodes each if you want to check it out. Season 3, which took place in Hawaii, is also available on DVD. For the other US seasons, as of now, Season 2, known as The Next Betrayal, is not readily available anywhere at the moment. As with Season 1, it had been streaming on Netflix last year, but has since been removed. It was never put out on DVD, so your best bet is to wait for it to return to Netflix. There's also a behind-the-scenes book about that season that was written by the actual mole from the show, but definitely don't look that up if you don't want to be spoiled. But it could be worth a read if you're a die-hard fan that remembers that season. Season 5 of the US version aired in 2008 with civilian contestants again and a new host, John Kelly. As of now, you can find that on YouTube if you search Mole 5. Hopefully it doesn't get taken down. Your next best bet as an English speaker wanting to watch brand new seasons of The Mole would be to check out the Dutch version, Wie is de Mol Season 23, that'll be coming out in January and usually runs about 10 weeks. The YouTube channel WIDM English Subs puts out full episodes with English subtitles the day after they air in the Netherlands. I'll put a link to that channel in the description below. If you want to go back and watch old seasons of Wie is de Mol, I recommend starting with Season 17, that was actually filmed in the United States in Oregon. It's a really great season with awesome twists, plenty of English speaking, plus some missions that you will definitely recognize from this Netflix version. So that does it for the first season of the Mole Tracker. I'm very much a novice YouTuber, and I kind of came up with this idea on a whim, so it's very cool to see the positive reaction to my videos. Thanks to all the mole fans out there. If there is some interest, I might even put out some videos about the Dutch Wie is de Mol Season 23. And I'll certainly return if and when there is a Season 2 of the Netflix version. I'll be keeping my fingers crossed that it happens. Until then, take care.